We are now joined by Brandon Scott of Locked On Wizards. I'm Kylan Mills, excited to be breaking down all things NBA draft, but we have to start out with the Washington Wizards making a trade ahead of the first round of the 2024 NBA draft for Deni Avdija to the Portland Trail Blazers for guard Malcolm Brogdon, the number 14 pick in this draft, a 2029 first round and 2 second-round picks. First, we got to get your reaction on the trade, Brandon. I'm very surprised to hear that you're not a huge fan. Why is that?
I understand from the perspective of, the haul of picks we got. We definitely need picks because, if you look at Will Dawkins, he's definitely modeling this rebuild after Oklahoma City. So I get it. Acquiring young talent, acquiring picks, I get all that. But I mean, looking at his age, the fact that he finally broke out offensively, the timeline, I think the only way that I would feel better about the trade is if they package Malcolm Brogdon and Kyle Kuzma in the trade for more picks or young assets, then I would kind of agree with that. I mean, it's just tough really taking a young player that hasn't hit his prime yet, who's finally broken out offensively. So,
yeah, you want to hold on to those type of guys. But you did get the 14th overall pick in this 2024 NBA draft. So the pick is in. Let's find out who the Wizards went with.
The pick is in.
All right, as we're getting ready to break it down with the 14th overall selection in the 2024 NBA draft, Bub Carrington out of Pittsburgh, 6'4" guard, 195, is going to the Washington Wizards after they pick up the selection from the Portland Trail Blazers. And by the way, this is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs, helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnba. Now that we know the selection, Brandon, what is your take on Bub Carrington?
oh, I love this pick. I mean, his size, his versatility, he's fast on his feet, his shooting ability. He could be the point guard of the future. I love this pick.
Okay, well, I want you to expand a little bit more on why you love the pick. What could you see the fit being with this Wizards team? And how quickly do you expect him to develop?
Well, it's going to take a little bit of time for him to develop, but I think that's perfect for a team like the Wizards because we are going into year 2 of a rebuild. And if you look at the addition of head coach Brian Keefe and top assistant coach David Vanderpool, you got a coaching staff that is here for development. So I love that part. I don't know. It's tough to say because I do love the pick. It's just as far as looking at the timeline, but I will say this about the pick. It is perfect because if you look at other parts of the organization like Jordan Poole, I mean, they've shown that they're ready to ship out a lot of veterans. So the biggest thing this season is trying to boost the value of Jordan Poole. So maybe you can look at Bub Carrington as probably the point guard of the future. So, like I said, a lot of it is depending on future moves. Do they move on from Malcolm Brogdon? Do they move on from Jordan Poole? Do they move on from Kyle Kuzma? And really what's going on with Landry Shamet and, Tyus Jones? Do they bring him back? So there's a lot of question marks. But I love the pick because, again, he's versatile. I love the size 6'5". He can move. This is a team that was number 1 in pace last year. So they want to emulate that this season. And he's money in transition. So love everything I see from this kid.
The other thing about Bub Carrington is the fact that he's young, just 18 years old. Sometimes that means it can take more time. Everything I've read is that he is, though, very mature, carries himself in a certain way, and should be able to adjust to the professional game quickly. But in terms of just the personality fit and bringing in a player who's so young, I mean, with the rebuild, do the Wizards have time to really develop someone who's just 18 years old?
We have nothing but time.
You got the time and patience. Okay.
Got the time and patience. But the biggest hallmarks is this. They revamped the scouting department, which is key because the Wizards are notoriously known at missing on draft picks. We didn't miss last year, and we didn't miss it this year because last year Bilal Coulibaly was going to pick up a second round. Very rare do we get a second round pick that comes in and contributes. Tristan Vucevic did that. So if you look at this draft, Alex Sarr is money, and Bub Carrington, again, very young. Him and Alex Sarr, 18 and 19 respectively.
18, dude. You got a lot of 18-year-olds over there.
Absolutely. But when you look at what Brian Keefe was able to do with this team in the second half of last season, he's shown that he can set a standard. He can develop. He's good as far as chemistry. He established an atmosphere where guys not only want to get better, but they like playing here. If you look at Alex Sarr, he said, I want to go to DC, and there's reasons for that because they're establishing a great atmosphere here in DC, a great culture. So he's going to fit right in with what we're trying to do, and we're going to develop him right. And he's only a key part of this franchise when we get back to contention.
Okay. I like the positivity, something for fans to be excited about. Brandon Scott of Locked On Wizards, thanks so much for stopping by. Once again, Bub Carrington out of Pittsburgh going to the Wizards with a 14 overall selection. Appreciate it.
Anytime.
All right. Well, for more on the Washington Wizards anytime, you can subscribe to Locked On Wizards on YouTube or wherever you get podcasts. And for continuing coverage of the 2024 NBA Draft, subscribe to Locked On NBA on YouTube or wherever you get podcasts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.